Go live. All right, so I believe we should be live on Facebook. Welcome, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to today's how-to. I apologize if you can hear my beast of a dog. He makes weird noises. Stop, come here. Anyway, hopefully he's not too obnoxious. So today we are talking about building home pages in the high-level website builder. I've seen, come here, knock it off. I've seen several people asking questions about building within the builder and whatnot. And so I thought it would be a cool tutorial to do that. If you saw on the calendar that today was supposed to be how to text enable a landline number, it was, but my guinea pig had an issue with Twilio, and so we weren't able to do it. So we'll have to shelve that one. And so today I figured we'll move on to the next one, which is website building. So what we're going to do is we are going to replicate the homepage of Vallarta Cowork. So Vallarta Cowork is actually a business that I co-founded with some friends here in Puerto Vallarta. And we recently, our website was so old, it was kind of falling apart. So we had to redo it. And I was like, I'll redo it in high level. So I built this page in high level, and I thought this would just be a cool example of something that you could easily build. And so let's rebuild it together. And let me see here. All right, so I'm gonna hop into a sub account. I'm just gonna go to websites. We'll call this one Vallarta Cowork Rebuild. And we'll start off by adding a page. So this will be the home page, create the new page, and then we're gonna click into it. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do is our header. So I'm gonna add a full width section here, and I'm gonna go grab the logo. So if I right click on this, I'm gonna click Save Image As, and I'm gonna download this, and let's make a new folder here called Rebuild. And I'm gonna call this one Logo. Cool, so now I've got the logo file. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a row. And what I typically do is do two columns, one for the logo, one for the nav menu. So I'm going to go ahead and there's another way to do this. You could do it just with one and use the navigation elements. So let's do it that way first. So I can add an element here and I can go to navigation menu. And I can do it this way. So I can click that and scroll down and look for brand logo. I can upload and go grab that logo. Okay, and now I need to make that wider. Wider still. And that looks right. Maybe I went a little too wide. Okay. I want to get rid of this business name here. So we've got in advanced settings, the ability to turn that off. And then I've got my navigation over here. So then I would just go replicate all the items that are here. So pricing, location and hours, and that's all in the general tab up here at the top. So I'm not going to go through that because, you know, that's pretty straightforward, but I will just show you I'll just make that bigger because that's typically what I would do. And then I would go advanced and I would space it out a little bit, or maybe it's not in advanced. Maybe it is, here we go, horizontal spacing. So that looks much better. Okay, great. And then I have this colored border down here that matches the logo. So let's make that. So for these, this is a very handy tool if you want to build websites. It's called ColorZilla. It's a Chrome extension. It allows you to just pick any color from a page. So I'm just going to hover over that color, click, and now it's copied to my clipboard, which is great. So now I can come over here and I'm going to select the section. I'm going to go to advanced and I'm going to put a bottom border. I'm going to add my custom color here. And there's my border. So if I click away, I can see it. And I think the border that I had was a little thicker, so let's do 3 pixels there. Cool, that looks good. Headers maybe a little bit bigger than it would be. So again, you could just turn these down. Let's say to like 10 apiece. Cool. Next up, my hero image area. So we will go now, before I forget, this header I would use on every page, right? So instead of rebuilding that over and over again, what I would do is select the section, right? So I've got the green outline, hover over it, and now I can click this save icon here. It's like a little floppy disk. And now I get 2 options. I can save this as a template that I could use on other pages, or I could save it as a global section. The difference is if it's global, and let's say I made a change to it on some other page, it would change everywhere. If it's a template, I can just load it up on another page and then edit it independently. So typically with a header, I want to make it global. And so I would save that like that. Now, I would also make the mobile version of this. And so maybe we should do that real quick. So I'm going to select this again. I'm going to turn this one. So I'm going to go to advanced settings, turn off desktop, or sorry, turn off mobile. And now this section will only show on desktops. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to my mobile view and notice it's not there because I'm looking at a mobile sized area of the screen. So here I would build my, well, what I would actually do to save myself time is, let's do this. I'm going to, because if I had already built out my navigation, that can be tedious, so I wouldn't want to do that again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'd go advanced, turn this back on, clone it. Now this one, I'll go turn mobile off, and on this one, I will turn desktop off. So now when I go to mobile, I can see that there, and cool, that looks actually pretty good. I'll probably just, I would decrease the height of that logo maybe a little bit, but that actually looks pretty good. I might just come over here and increase the size of that hamburger nav. Cool, I'm happy with that. So let's go back and let's move on to our hero section. Let me grab some water. Let me take a peek over here in Facebook. No questions, cool. And let's move on. All right, so next up, we've got this big hero image, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to right click this, and I don't have, oh, do I have? Let's see if this gets me the image here. Nope, this got me the HTML, which is no bueno. That's not what I'm looking for. Let me just throw these in my trash can real quick. So high level, as you'll find with some websites, makes it actually hard to steal the images, which is kind of cool. So we're going to have to do a little investigating. So we're going to go right click and we're going to go view page, or no, not view page source, my bad. We're going to go inspect. And now we need to figure out what's what. So the easiest way to make sure we get what we need as quickly as possible is to use this arrow and hover over till we have the whole section. Okay, so now you can see it highlighted this div. So this div is that whole section, but there's more in it. So we're going to click to expand, and then bingo, there's our URL to our background image. So I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to grab that URL, copy it, open up a new tab, paste it, and there's the image. And now I can right click it and save it as. So I'm going to save this as like hammock. And now I can come back to my funnel and I can add my next section. So I'm going to add a full width section here. And we're going to go down to background image and we're going to upload that hammock image that we just downloaded. Boom, there it is. And I like to, if you like parallax, you can leave that effect on, and I'll show you what that is in a second. So let's add our text and it'll expand this section, and then we can mess with the sizing. So let's go grab some text here. So we've got this heading. So let's add a row, single column, add an element, headline. First off, I can't see that. So let's go change the color of our bolded text to white. And when I pasted it, it became unbolded. So I'm going to rebold it. Now it'll go back to white. And the text on the site was much bigger than that. So let's, yeah, that looks about good. And now we've got some subtext here. So easiest way to add another element is to just hover over the last one and click plus. I'm going to grab a subheading. Again, I'm going to change the color of that so I can see it. Paste. Let's make that a little bit bigger as well. Okay, that looks about right. And now let's add some padding. So if I click back to my section and I crank up my bottom padding and my top padding, now I've got more room. And you'll see as I scroll, well, let me illustrate this point here. If I preview what I've built so far, as I scroll, my page isn't big enough to illustrate the point yet. But I'll show you later what the parallax does. You see how you can, the image isn't moving. You can like pan across the image. That's the parallax effect. Versus if I just, which I usually do, just go full center for the background image. Now, this image had already had like a dark fade on top of it to make the text easier to read. But if it didn't, we can actually do that in high level. So you can select the background, and you've got this background image opacity. So if I wanted to make it like darker to make the text easier to read, I could put a color behind the image of black, and then I could start messing with opacities. So you see how that just got darker? The text got much easier to read. You can do that here with the fades. Now again, the image already had a fade on there, so I think I'm good with that. So let's move on. Next up, we have a button, Get Started. And it's a cool looking button, right? It's got a see-through background and an outline. So how do we do that? Let's add another element, and we're going to choose button. What's our button say here? Get Started. Okay, so let's go to our button text. Now it's smashed up against that text, which we don't like. So let's put a little margin on top of it. And let's, is that button a little wider? It is. So we can do, let's increase the padding on the left to like say 40 and the same thing on the right. Great. All right, so now how do we make it the opposite of that? We go to Advanced and we go to Styles, Line Flat. Okay, so now it just totally disappeared because I now need to add the border. So I'm gonna go, oops, I need to do full border. Okay, and now I get to choose the color of that border. So there we go. Maybe I make it a little thicker. And boom. That looks just like that. Cool, so there's my button, there's my section. And again, I would then go, how does it look on mobile? So if we click on mobile, whoa, we can see here that it's below our mobile header. And that actually looks really good on mobile, so I don't need to mess with it. But I could, like I did before, by cloning it, making one desktop only, making one mobile only. Let me just hop over to Facebook real quick to see if we have any questions. No, we're good. All right, great. So let's move on to our next section. This is just text, so this is really easy, right? So I'm going to add a full width section here. I'm going to add one column. I'm going to add a headline. Done. Then I'm going to add a paragraph. paste. Looks like we got some extra spacing in there. Let's get rid of that. And let's beef this text size up. Cool. Let's put a little margin on top to give that some room to breathe there. And that's about right. Then we get these. So this is kind of cool. So let's talk about how we make tiles. So we're going to add another section. And we're going to add some rows. So this ends up being 4 columns. But the easiest way I find to do this is to use duplication. So here's what I do. So I'm going to start with the last one. So I've got an icon, a heading, which is like a subheading, and some text. So let's start with the icon here. So we're going to go, I usually just add a heading. And with every text element, you can add an icon. So if we click icon and then we search microphone, we can find an icon there, right? So if we just delete the text, we'll be left with just our icon. And then we can use the font size to make it bigger. So let's say about there. And then we can change the icon color. So boom, there we go. Then we just need our subheading. And then our text. Okay. There we go. So let's make that text a little bit bigger. And let's just give it a little padding. Oops. Like that. All right, so now we want to make our tile visually evident. So what we're going to do is we're going to click out till we get to purple. And that's going to give us this column here. And we're going to go advanced and we're going to go full border. Okay, so we've got our border now. Now we've got our color and we want to round those corners. So let's go 10 and we can see it rounded our corners. So that all looks pretty good, except it's really wide and not tall. So let's just put some, with our, again, purple frame selected, let's put some padding on the top and the bottom. So let's make it even. We'll go 35 and 35. Cool. And now here's what makes it easy. So instead of starting with 4 columns, like I said, I just start like this and then I duplicate. And so there's my third one. And now I just start editing, right? So I'd come back here, I'd change the icon to, that looks like some people. That one, edit the text, etc., and then clone it again. Oops, not that, clone the whole thing. So we got to go purple, clone. And you can see, there you go. So I'm just going to keep doing that and now delete my extra one there. Cool. So I'm not going to do all of them, but you get the point. But that's how to make those tiles pretty easily. After that, we have like an Instagram type of section. So there's a couple of ways to do this. And what I like to do is not exactly what most people would do, but I actually do it manually. So I would make a section full width. We had a background color here. We had a heading. Our heading was bold, and the color of that bold heading is white. And then we have 2 sections of 4 rows, or 4 columns, I should say. So 1, and then we would just clone this one. And what I like to do is literally I just go and screenshot the images, and I use like Canva or Photoshop to make sure that they're all perfectly sized to be square. And then I just upload them. You can also use something which is really handy, like Elfsight. So with Elfsight, you can go grab an Instagram feed, and it works really well. So basically you just plug in an Instagram, you give it an Instagram handle, it pulls up the feed, you choose how many tiles that you want to show, and then it gives you a script, and you just come and paste the, you would use a custom JavaScript element here. And so you would go, instead of what I did, you would just add a 1-column section and you would add custom JavaScript. You'd click it, you'd paste the script that Elfsight would give you, and it would dynamically display the latest Instagram images in that section. Why don't I do that? Sometimes I do if I know that it's a client that has a really great Instagram. If it's not, then I like to choose what images are going to be here, right? The best images. So then I would just go to their account and I would cherry pick the best images and just screenshot them and then go size them up and then put them on the page so that I know people are always going to get a great experience when they see those images, and not leave it up to chance where it might be, you know, some of the latest images might be like a promo thing or something like that. So that's what I typically do. So if I was replicating this site, I would just come in here, save the images, and then add them in. So I would go image, upload, and then mess with settings. So you'll find that like by default, there's some padding around there, right? So I would typically come in here, turn all these to 0. And then again, so I don't have to do that again, I would go to my column and do the same thing. And then again, I would, does this have padding? No. I would delete down and clone. Oops, I cloned the wrong thing. I need to go purple. And then just keep doing that, right? Just like we did before. And then I would go replace them. So delete the extra, clone again, delete the extra. And now I would just go replace those images. And then I would clone the whole row and then go replace those bottom ones there. Pretty easy, right? Then there's a button. We already covered how to make a button like that up here. So I would probably just go clone that top button and drag it down, save myself the time, and then change the color of the border. Let's see what else we have here. So this is kind of cool. So I'll explain this real quick and then probably stop there because the rest is pretty straightforward. This is, I like to do this for like location areas and map, you know, where we're at type of stuff. And I use this thing called Snazzy Maps, which is pretty neat. So you can go to Snazzy Maps and click Build a Map. Don't need to see an ad. Choose the style. So there's a bunch of different cool styles of maps in here. So maybe you want something like that. Maybe you want it like, you know, maybe the scheme of your website is pretty dark. Whatever it may be, you can choose what you want. Let's say I wanted to do that one. Cool. Apply the style. When you go to location, this is cool because you can then search for a location. So Vallarta Cowork, there it is. Boom, now it zooms the map to that area, and now I can even move it around. So I know I'm going to put something on the left side, so I need the map to the right, right? So I just slide it over like that. You can choose to zoom in, right? And Vallarta Cowork is right around there. Cool, apply, and then you can drop a pin. So you add a marker, and again, if you just search for it, boom, dropped the pin. Do a styled marker. Maybe because I'm using the color here, I would choose like to make it white. But you can, you know, you got a couple of choices in here. and can make it bigger. Apply. And then here's the hack that I do. I go full size there and I screenshot it. So I come in here and I take a screenshot of that, and I probably would cut that off like that. And then what I would do is I would go and size that up. What do I mean by that? I would take this into Photoshop. I would Photoshop out that part and this stuff over here if you know how to do that. If not, at the very least, go into Canva and save it so that you can reduce the weight of the image. But I'm going to skip that for this tutorial. So we're just going to pretend that we sized it up so that the image isn't really heavy. And then we would add our section. We would go grab that image that we just snagged. And you see how it's taking a while to upload because it's a bigger image, right? I didn't optimize the weight of that. Put that in there, make it full center. Boom, looking good. And now I can add my 2-column area, and then I can start adding all the stuff that I have over here. So I've got my heading. Make that bold again. Make the bold white. Or maybe in this case, I would keep it dark, however I want to do that. Oh yeah, this was black over here, so let's do that. Text. And you can see this is all centered, right? So I don't want that. I want to go align left, and let's put some space between those two. Oops. What do I have selected? All right, margin bottom. Great. And then I had a button. Again, I'm not going to go style the button because we already talked about that, but I will maybe want to align that to the left as well. And then all I did was just stylize the column, right? So we came here, we would go give the column a background color, go advanced. If you want to round the corners, you have to have a border. So do a full border, but just make the border color the same color. And now you can do the radius. Boom, great. Now everything's really smushed up against the edges there. So we would just come over here and start adding padding. So we would go padding left, padding bottom. And you can continue to play with that until you like what you've got. If I wanted to make this a little bit more, I would just jack that up, right? And jack that up. There you go. Boom. And then I would add my footer. And that's pretty straightforward, right? That's just a 3-column section with some text and some logos. So if anybody's following along and you have any comments, just let me know real quick. If not, that's a quick tutorial on basically how you can build web pages in HighLevel by replicating other cool looking sites that you found. Hopefully you picked up a couple of pointers along the way. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Our drag and drop builder makes it really cool. And again, you always just want to, after you've got your page built, go into mobile mode and check things out. So like this doesn't look fantastic on mobile. So I would clone that whole section, turn one off for desktop, turn one off for mobile. And then on the mobile specific one, I would come in and add some spacing between those elements. Same thing with these photos. I would probably duplicate that, and same thing with this. So I'd make those mobile specific sections and then clean it up on mobile. And now I've got a really nice desktop experience and a really nice mobile experience. So hope you picked up some pointers. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you next week.